with tube cards, I've reached the topic of mosaic. After having woven such a jewel box, I've decided to decorate a cover with these tube waist ends. Such a simple pattern has been born. Having created this pattern, I've decided to try and create a more complicated mosaic-like pattern. Surely this topic has fascinated me. Mosaic is a very interesting art. I've already experimented with eggshell a while ago. I've tried making very simple patterns. Here, space for imagination is unlimited. There are lots of tube remainders, colors are quite different. Patterns are various as well, because the topic of mosaic is quite interesting and there are plenty of various patterns available on the web. So the topic is very exciting. Here you can see my first experiments with eggshell. They were made quite a while ago. Now I'm getting back to the topic of mosaic, but this time we are going to create it of waist ends we used to throw away. While cover decoration requires rather long tube remainders, for our current task, short tube ends left after tube lengthening are quite sufficient. I found a rather interesting pattern, a blooming garden. I have prepared 3 types of waist ends for it. These ones have been cut into fine pieces in order to get a distinct and interesting looking pattern. I've prepared the jewel box, outlined the pattern, a tree branch and white flowers. A blooming garden in twilight. The technique is quite similar, let me show you. I've covered the outline with school glue. There is no point in spreading glue over large areas, cause it gets dry too fast. So I spread glue little by little. With the help of a knitting needle or toothpick, I create a twig at first. I place these short tube pieces irregularly. I don't use any ruler for cutting them. I just crumb them and place at random, joining them in different points. I don't follow any rules, just place them at random. Another interesting point is that tube waist ends contain points of gluing, which are a bit lighter. It results in an interesting effect. The surface is dissimilar. Some points are lighter while the other ones are darker. It seems to look more like a natural twig thanks to different shades of color. This way we are creating a twig pattern as a whole. I'd like to show you my first experiment, Garden in Bloom. This was my first attempt, not a very successful one. However, the process is exciting anyway. Here is a sun for children's jewel box, such an abstract pattern, and a Martian landscape like this. I found found the patterns by typing the words mosaic and pattern in a search engine. As a result, I found so many of them I still cannot stop. So let's continue. The twigs have been created, as well as the flowers and flower heads of white tube ends. The only thing left is to fill the background. Dark blue tube cards and a few light blue ones are meant for background. So I hope to create natural-looking summer twilight color. Background is easy to make, as you don't have to create any patterns, you just place tube ends at random. This topic requires thorough studying. One of interesting points is placing tube ends in various directions, which creates an interesting effect. Here I've placed the tube ends horizontally to create the ground. The rest of tubes are placed vertically. Here I've placed the tube cards along the curves. Here the pieces are placed in circle to create the sun and along sunbeams. Here as well the pieces are directed differently, horizontally, vertically, in circle along the twig line, and so on. This creates an interesting pattern too. Here I've created twigs and flowers, and I'm going to create a background horizontally. Let me add a couple of words more. The blue and dark tubes have been painted with primer. White ones are not primed, and it has been rather complicated to cut them and create a pattern with them. So, if you get interested in the topic of mosaic, it may be reasonable to prime the tube waist ends in case they haven't been primed beforehand. Such tubes will never unroll, they are quite easy to work with. Let me remind you that I don't cover tubes with pure primer, only primer mixed with water 1:1, plus colorant and varnish. A standard recipe of tube painting. And continue filling the background this way, at random. Let's add a light blue piece here. If a piece requires cutting, I do. Here I've woven a 4-tube rope in order to create sufficient volume. I've prepared a space for mosaic with the help of this rope. In this case, I've created a workpiece at first, and then framed the mosaic with a tube for neatness. So you can start either with a workpiece or with a cover and then create a mosaic on its surface. Both ways are possible. Continue filling a background. It's convenient to grab a piece with a toothpick. Let me share one more trick. In order to emphasize the twig, I tend to place light pieces closer to the twig for the sake of contrast. At the whole, the pattern is rather motley, but try to emphasize the twig. Thanks to their different lengths, you get more opportunities for maneuvering where to place each piece, so don't try to cut all pieces identical. You don't necessarily have to fill all the place at a time. You can fill the gaps with the smallest pieces later. Let's place a small piece here, for example. Continue this way. There is little left to finish. Most part has been filled already. So the picture has been created. The only thing left is to varnish it. The item is exclusive. To my mind, the idea is rather interesting. You can hardly find two similar items created this way. Every gift made this way is unique. I wish you to enjoy an unlimited source of imagination and creativity. All the best to you!